So, again, I want to say thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We're really excited to talk a little bit about the value of earning your nationally accredited certification. We see some nice hellos going on in the chat, but I'm going to start with posting a little bit of a poll. We want to begin by getting to know you a little bit. And the first one you should see taking over your screen right now is asking you, what is the one thing you are most hoping to take away or to learn from today? So just take a quick minute. These are some options that we thought you might be interested in. We just want to make sure that we're addressing the questions that you have. So if nothing here is really resonating with you, if you want to choose other, please post that in the chat. We want to just capture and see what are the things you're really interested in, and this will also help us to develop more webinars as we progress through the year and to help other learners like yourself. So thank you. We've got a really great response rate so far. Almost everybody has responded. Fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and just end that poll up here in just a second. We have a pretty broad range. It looks like we have a little bit of everything. So, how to grow in my career, how to know I'm ready to test, how to help me get that job that I'm looking for. Fantastic. We're going to really try to address as many of these as possible for you during today's session. So, hold on, let's go ahead and move into kind of this is our general agenda. We're going to talk through some key things about certification with a focus on what employers are asking us, what they wish you knew, not only about getting your certification, but what they need for that to mean to you as a potential employee. So, here at NHA, we want you to know we are fully invested in the success of all of our candidates. And we are here to help ensure that no matter your background or your needs, that you feel confident and empowered to know your resources. And no matter where you are in your journey, to hopefully eventually earn your NHA nationally accredited certification. Helping you to know what will be expected of you by your next employer is an important step in this process. So we're going to just dive in. I'm going to ask you another quick question here. Let me just post another poll. So we're curious, are you preparing for your exam? You should see a couple of options here. What is the one that sits most accurately with where you are? Are you enrolled currently in an academic program preparing for that certification? Are you maybe doing this through an employer-based program, which we have a lot of? If not, that's totally okay. I'm testing as an individual. I'm doing this based off of my own personal experience. Or if there's something else, please feel free to let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Find out just a little bit about the people who are with us today. So appreciate you taking a minute just to fill that out. Okay, we got almost everybody. Fantastic. All right. And I see a couple folks who are here as educators themselves. That's great. This is awesome information to provide or even the recording out to your class. So I'm going to go ahead and close that down. But it looks like the bulk of you are actually here through an academic program, which is completely fine if you don't affiliate with that. What we're about to cover is going to be important for all of you. So let's go ahead and just dive in. To level set, NHA has 8 nationally accredited certifications, and they're broken into 2 main sections. So as we can see here, 5 of those certifications fall on more of a practitioner side of healthcare. So this includes medical assistant, phlebotomist, pharmacy technician, EKG, and patient care. We also have 3 certifications that are more on that administrative side. These include billing and coding, medical administrative assistant, and e-records. In addition to certifications, NHA also develops learning tools to support the objectives of these professions. But primarily today, we're going to focus on those accredited certifications, resources to help, but specifically what employers are expecting of you. Okay, let's jump in. The first kind of insider's tip is to really understand what a certification means, what it is, and how they're not all created equal. So having a certification actually is more than just completing a course or program. What it does is it shows you've gone further. You've had your abilities, your skills, your knowledge assessed and proven through an outside source. You are evaluated at a national level when you take NHA certification exam. And that can show that you've met requirements that have a mastery of the skills in your chosen field. So let's look real quick at the difference between a certificate of completion and a certification. A certificate of completion shows that you've completed training through usually an educational institution. Think about earning your high school diploma, for example. That shows you've completed a program. Well, a certification is obtained through examination by an outside agency. So if you want to think about the difference of going to medical school or becoming a doctor. You don't become a doctor just because you graduated med school. There are other steps for you to complete and eventually an assessment for you to take to earn your license. So different steps there. So when you are looking to get your national certification, it's really important to take note if it's an accredited one. But what does that even mean? So having an accredited certification, like those provided from NHA, means that what you're being tested on has been evaluated at an industry level. You're not being tested just on what we think you should know, but what the industry says you need to know. Not all certifications are accredited, so making sure that yours is can make a big difference to an employer. So the NHA certification exams are all accredited through the Institute for Credentialing Excellence. There's a lot of kind of abbreviations here, but this means that those certifications themselves are nationally recognized. And in addition, they are recognized by the largest program-based accreditations, which means that we help to establish some of those industry standards because we're a sponsoring organization of the largest ones. So basically, all this is to say that you should feel confident in your decision of partnering with NHA to earn your industry certification. Now, I'm just going to take another quick minute and I'm curious. I'm going to launch another poll. You might need to use the scroll bar on this one, but you should see all 8 of our certifications are listed. Which is the one that you are preparing for? Again, this is just so that we can see kind of what's going on, who's with us today. And if you're preparing for more than one, totally fine. Which is the first one you're going to be testing for? So give you guys all just a minute, kind of look through that. If you need to scroll, we do have a couple there at the bottom as well. Got almost everybody. And I know some of you are with us as educators today, so no worries, but want to get as many people here as possible. Oh my gosh, almost everyone. Fantastic. We have a really broad blend of people here with us today across almost every single certification, from phlebotomy to EKG, patient care, billing and coding. Amazing. Thank you guys so much for answering that. I really appreciate it. So let's take another step in and talk about how you can see accreditation. So a quick search on any organization's website, like NHA's, which is what we see here, should bring up the ability to view their accreditation status. Always do your research beforehand to make sure that what you're walking into really stands for something in the industry. Some other information to know is that NHA is the largest entry-level healthcare worker certification organization in the industry. These are partners that we have under our kind of organization. And we currently have over 1 million certified candidates. So we're able to lead the industry in resources and what that we can help provide for you as you study. And I know that was one of your big questions. So the next kind of super tip on certification is going to talk about what employers are expecting or thinking about it. Specifically, why is it important? So why do employers want you to get certified? Well, NHA works with employers across the country, and we know that they value candidates who have an industry certification. We see this in that those who do are more likely to get hired in the first place, often have a higher pay scale, better job security, pathways for career advancement. Having your certification tells employers your skills are credible. It says that you have a set of abilities that have been proven. This actually gives them improved standards of care and safety, which is often what they are evaluated on. So they do see some pretty big value in that. So, just to give you an example, even though a job posting may say they're looking for a medical assistant, when they go to screen applications, having credentials and a national certification helps you stand out, even if that certification requirement isn't posted in that job description. In fact, a recent survey of employers across the country reflected that 91% of employers said they would hire a candidate who has a certification over one who doesn't. It's a pretty big percentage. We also know that they don't only prefer you to be certified, but most require it. This is some information per certification, and you can see here that for most roles, employers are expecting you to be certified. You can see kind of the percentage of averages and what they expect in the industry. We have another example here of just 4 certifications, and what hiring managers have shared are the most important pieces when they screen applications. You can see that if you're applying for a job, even if it doesn't say they're requiring certification, they are looking for it. So we want to make sure that you make that clear that you have it. To simplify all those numbers, basically, on average, most healthcare employers highly encourage or require that their staff earn or have their certification. And most HR teams use if you have one in a screening process before that very first phone call. We know because employers across the country feel that having a certification in that field, they think that means you are better prepared for the job. And typically they're right because you've done the work, you've been assessed, you've been there, and you've got that certification. So now that you understand what employers are thinking about, let's talk about what they've shared they need from you if you have one. So, a few other items from that recent survey showed that one of the most important skills a candidate needed to show beyond certification were what's called soft skills. They include professionalism, critical thinking, dependability, and verbal communication. These are those things not really tied to the technical side of the job, but of these, they also said that critical thinking and dependability were the most often missing in potential candidates. So when employers talk with NHA and we ask, what are you looking for in a candidate? They say soft skills, and are they certified? Now, NHA has some additional resources around developing these you can look into if you want. It's a little bit off topic for today, but this is a really important thing for you to show to a potential employer. Your computer skills are also important. Even in just a few short years, the increase of telehealth went from 11% of visits to 46% and growing. We know it's not going away anytime soon. So your ability to keep your professionalism, communication, and virtual discussions is a really big benefit to an employer and can help enhance the patient experience. In just the last few years, we've seen some other trends on hiring and skills, and we know on average that employers are having a hard time locating qualified candidates, which is why having that certification is a really big checkbox that they want to check off. They've also seen an increase in saying that healthcare employees have higher responsibilities, and this is a really big one. On average, candidates lack required EMR skills. This is true for all roles, but the gap was especially large in some more than others, and we're seeing this gap grow. So getting your certification or even stacking that with additional certifications like NHA's e-records can provide employers confidence that you're equipped to do the job at hand. So we know employers value your ability to meet these needs. And of those interviewed, the majority confirmed that they will increase candidate pay when an employee earns that certification. But we also found that a study showed that having an initial certification had an average of 16% in earnings. So it actually can take you much further. And we know getting started is the hardest part. An increase in pay is great. So getting that first certification is a major step in your long-term success. But what does the data say for those who stack, like I was just mentioning? Well, recent research shows that healthcare is one of the most popular areas in which stacked or multiple certifications are not only found, but of value. For those who build on their skills, not just continue in the same kind of content, but diversify, for example, earning both a medical assistant and phlebotomy certification. This is shown to have a higher benefit for your income, as well as probability to not only get the job you can get, but the job you want. And though those who earn their certification, we do see that higher increase of pay, those who stack move from an average of an additional 11% to 46% possible increase in pay. It also showed that those who stack go on to further education, with a large percent actually moving to an associate's degree or even bachelor's degree. And this certification is just your first step on a fantastic road to a career in healthcare. So I know the industry is growing, you've picked a great field, and you know that getting certified is going to help you move forward. All right, great. So now what? Right? How do you know that what to do to move forward? And the big question that we get a lot of the time, and we're here to help. So depending on your academic program, your employer, what you're doing, you may already have some of the NHA study materials provided to you, but this is really the best way to get you ready on exam day. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that means. So I'm going to launch another poll. I'm just curious for those of you who are here with us, have you already created your NHA login? Yes or no? And if no, that's totally fine. We're just curious to see who's with us today. Do you already have a login or no? Perfect. Got almost everybody. You guys are so fast at this. This is fantastic. So it looks like something around 97% of you already have your NHA login. Fantastic. Thank you for that. We're going to just talk a little bit about that login and some things to expect. So we know that if you already have it, most of you already have it. If you don't already, no big deal. Now is a good time, but please be sure to check in with your program if you're doing this through an academic program, that you're following their steps. But there's a couple of best practices here. If possible, prior to exam day, please double check that your email address that you're using for your login is one that you'll check even after you're done with your program. Think about, where would you want a password reset to go? Where should our reminders to you go? Now, some programs require this to be a specific email, but you have the ability to change this at any time. In addition, your password. We want to make sure you know it. You don't want to show up on exam day and be stuck in a testing center, unable to test because you can't remember your password, because you're not going to be on the same computer. You won't have your saved password. So make sure you know what those are. Another key thing here before exam day, make sure that the name on your account is your legal first and last name. This should be whatever is on your government issued photo ID. That is what they'll use on exam day to verify you. And if your account name and your ID name, first and last, don't match, they won't allow you to test. So this is something you should check in advance. If you need to change it, we can help you with that. We just want to make sure of that before exam day. So once you're in there, we know that using the NHA study materials, which are based on our test plans, is really a great way to help you prepare. The full prep package includes an online study guide and series of practice tests. It has personalized reporting and an additional unique tool called the focused review. We're going to talk really briefly about each of these pieces to help as you prepare. So a quick note about the study materials. On our website, you'll find some additional resources to help you, but we're just going to take a brief minute to kind of go through this. The study guide is broken into some main categories, and this may look different depending on the tool that you're using, but it all kind of follows the same path. So there's always going to be breakdowns here of the different categories or key competencies from the exam. The study guide is great, but it is not enough all on its own. So if you're in a program or going through training, you definitely want to make sure you keep up on those pieces. But once you have access to this, you do have some additional activities or games that are built into the material. There will be checkpoints and little mini assessments, quizzes, and you'll also receive practice test attempts. There are some additional features like glossary terms, flashcards, and even professionalism videos, which are just a small step in helping to understand what's expected of you in your role. Again, those kind of soft skills. What it's not just about can you do the job, but are you a good employee? To help, we've also got a flashcard app. So if you have access to your study materials digitally, you can download this app and you'll be able to access all of the flashcards from your study materials. And it helps just to keep organized. You can do this on any device, any mobile device, Android or Apple. We've got how-tos that will walk you through the whole thing. It's just another layer of how to maybe prepare, taking the time to study. Now, I mentioned practice tests. These should be a part of a prep package if you purchased or provided them. And you're taken through a total of six total practice test attempts. Now, just because you get a bunch of tries doesn't mean you should just do them all right away and memorize questions. It's not what these are for. These are designed to help you prepare and study for your exam. Each of your 6 attempts are just like taking the full exam content, but the questions on your practice tests are not going to be on your certification test. Can't do that. It wouldn't be ethical. We got to make sure that you're studying. So they're designed to follow the full test plan and outline an experience for all scored questions. They can provide feedback, you get reporting, and some additional tools to help you study. Your program may turn on or off what's called instant feedback rationales. This can help you understand the why behind your answers. But we do recommend that at least 2 attempts be with those off, and even try to time yourself to really feel like what that exam day is going to feel like. So though you get a total of 6 attempts, we really see that those who use at least the first 4 have a higher possibility of passing their certification exam on their first attempt. But each practice test attempt is what creates for you your focused review. This is another part of the package. So this is, again, tied to each attempt. And what it does is it takes out all of the excess and only focuses you in on just those areas you missed questions on. So this is filterable. It is printable. You can go back and highlight certain areas or spend time in competencies that you haven't quite mastered yet. So it's not interactive like your study guide is, but it is the right tool to use in between your practice tests. So all of these have detailed reporting for you to see what you've done. Where have you been spending your time? How well are you doing across those materials? Now, we're going to host some other webinars here in October and into November on reporting and how to use this material. So please take a look at that so you can register for those as well. We definitely want to make sure that you feel comfortable in that material. You can register or view our on-demand webinars. Those are those that have already occurred on our website under the resources dropdown, where it says webinars and events, and there are pre-recorded sessions that you can look at as well. But how do you know if you're eligible, right? Okay, well, what if I'm not sure? Well, right from your home screen, you have an option to find out your eligibility. You can scroll down once you follow that link, and it will take you to a short quiz you can take or a direct link to the candidate handbook. And this is where all of your questions can get answered. But in most cases, successfully completing your academic program should be all that you need to help you meet the minimum requirements to test for NHA's certification exam. So for those of you who are here, the bulk of you who mentioned that's how you're studying, that should be sufficient. But just in case, what the candidate handbook will outline is that there's more than one eligibility pathway. Training program. So what does that mean? Completing an accredited or state recognized program in the last few years. This can mean military or employer-based training experience or work experience. This requires a full year of consistent work in the role in the last 3 years. Either pathway will take you to eligibility. So no matter how you're studying, you know that there are some resources available to you, but let's make sure your exam day is a great one. And we've got a little bit of a timeline here. Just going to walk you through some best practices. And that starts by getting logged into your account as early as is possible. The sooner the better, but please follow up with your academic program or your employer to make sure everything is ready to go. If you can, or if your program is providing it, get access to those NHA study materials as soon as possible. A recent survey, actually, of over 6,000 certification holders confirmed they wished they had had these materials sooner so they could study better prior to testing. Learn from their mistakes, right? Get started sooner. So on that, following good study habits is a pretty big part of the process. The NHA materials that you can get, we do recommend that you go through the study guide first, using it to help you see the material, how NHA is going to talk about it, test you on it. And then when the time is right, get started into your practice tests. Now, again, each practice test follows the full test plan. So taking these too soon may not be in your best interest, right? We want to take those after you've done your full study. And again, don't just use these to memorize questions. So in between each of these is where the focused review comes in. Using it, your program materials, employer materials, studying in between, that's the right thing to do at this point. Now, be sure to apply for your exam as early as you can. Best is at least 2 weeks before the exam date, if not sooner. You have to apply at least a week in advance to make sure everything is possible and ready to go for exam day. So you want to make sure that you get this done. Now, the day before the test, be sure you know that login email and password I mentioned. We don't want you to get stuck in that computer lab or in that testing center on a different computer than you've been studying on. So it won't have your saved passwords. And you don't want to be able to not test because of a password issue. Some other key things, remember to show up early on exam day, plan ahead for traffic and parking, and then you can finally take that exam and become NHA certified. So this is just a little bit of a timeline to help you out. Okay, I've got another question here. I'm going to post another poll. So we talked real briefly about the NHA study materials. Are you using these? Is this something you have access to? So there's a couple different options here. Yes, I've purchased them. I've been provided them. I'm not sure. I'm planning on buying them on my own. I didn't I didn't know they existed, whatever you like. Other, totally fine. Please just let us know. I'm just a little bit curious. I talked a little bit about them. We do have some other webinars on best practices for studying that might be of value to those of you who do have these. So just take a quick minute and let's select the different options there. All right, I'm going to close this down in just a second. Great responses, you guys. It looks like the bulk of you actually already do have these materials, and many of you are going to be getting them. Some aren't sure, so that's totally fine. Double check with your program if you're doing this through a program, just to make sure that you don't buy anything you don't need or you don't access it too early, but always, double check there. But thank you so much for answering that. All right. So the next thing that you need to know is what's expected of you once you are certified. Just having the certification is the first step, right? But now we need to make sure that employers know there are more options available to you. Once you pass your exam, you can keep going. I mentioned stacked credentials earlier, right? There are always options to further your career path and stack those certifications with other industry credentials. You may already even be eligible for an eHealth record certification based on your experience or program. And remember, those who keep going have more opportunities available to them. NHA also has a job board on our website where employers across the country post jobs looking for certified candidates. We have a blog space where we post interview prep tools, job search tips, even resume writing suggestions. So there's lots of great resources out there for you. And beyond that, it's important to remember that your certifications don't last forever. You will need to maintain them by keeping them updated through continuing education credits. You can do this through your NHA portal or upload completed coursework from an employer or program. We also mentioned really early those additional skills developers. So purchasing and completing these can also count as credits towards those renewals. And they can help also with some of those key soft skills and professionalism skills that we know employers are looking for. We highly recommend that you have an online professional presence. Creating a LinkedIn profile, for example, is a great idea. Something where employers can search you. Please know they will Google you. So make sure that they can see that you have your certification. You can also put them after your name and your email signature, absolutely in your resume cover letter. Make it clear you're certified. Use every resource available to you. For example, in an academic program, there's probably career services, a team there. They can help you identify where to go next. Don't forget to save or bookmark the NHA website for follow-up and future needs. And finally, once you've earned your certification, you can go online and post the hashtag NHA certified on any social media platform. We love hearing from you. It gives us the ability to celebrate alongside you. Another quick benefit here is that working with NHA gives you the opportunity to also earn college credit. We're constantly working on developing these, but currently we have several certifications. We're earning that certification. We'll give you transferable college credit if you do choose to move forward. It's a program called Credly. You'll be notified about it. We've got information out on our website on this as well. So just keep an eye out for that. We will be reaching out to you with email reminders. We have how-to walkthroughs and resources. And I mentioned the blogs, job board, flashcard app, lots of resources to help you with this process. Here is just one example of one of our candidate testimonials. We really do love hearing from you. So please know that we understand that this isn't easy. Working in healthcare is hard. And what you're doing, this first step, is a big first step. Please know you're not just changing your life, but the lives of those around you. They see your hard work. They'll see the dedication you're putting into this, and it does make a difference. I can't wait to see your face here, right? Once you've earned your certification, we've got some testimonials out on our website, so please take a look, get inspired, but it's so exciting to hear from you every time. I'm going to ask another quick question here. We've got some other webinars coming up, and these are just some topics that if you're interested or you think it might be good information to look at, what would be something that you would want to attend a future webinar for? I just want to take a quick look and see kind of what you are liking, what are the things that would be helpful for you. We want to make sure we're making content that you want. I'm actually going to post in the chat here a link to our webinar center. This is where we have on demand as well as upcoming webinars available to you. So I'm just actually thinking how to prepare. We do have one. It's called How to Prepare for Your Exam. I'm just looking at your posts here and the responses. So this link right here is a link directly to our recent webinar on using your NHA study material. So look at you, such great responses. Thank you guys so much for that. I really appreciate that. All right, so we're going to go ahead. That was kind of the bulk of its very specific content, what employers are really needing you to know. Before we get to Q&A, I just want to remind you we are recording. This will be sent out to everybody who registered. You can subscribe to these if you want to and go out on our website. But if you stick around in just a minute, we're going to actually be posting that survey link in the chat. Anyone who completes this will be put into a raffle. Thank you, Lauren. So take note, open that link that Lauren just posted in the chat. Filling that out will put you into a raffle for a $50 gift card. So absolutely take a minute and do that, please. Oops, wrong way. All right, so again, out on our website, if you just go to the resources drop down, upcoming events is where you can see our current and on-demand webinar registrations. So thank you guys for that so much. We're really excited for all of you. I want to thank you for being here with us today. We're going to go ahead and get into some Q&A. I'm sure there are some that have come in. I'd love to hear from the team. What have been some questions that we want to cover today?
Hey, Laura, it is Hannah. There hasn't been much chat going. There haven't been too many questions. A couple good ones that came in were around how many questions on the certification exam. So maybe just want to remind them where to find the test plans.
Oh, definitely. So if you want to know a little bit more about the exam that you're testing for, I'm out on the NHA website. Now, if you do have access to the NHA study materials, you'll have access also to the test plan through that. And those materials, I can't stress enough, are probably one of the most helpful things you can get or use because they are designed around these test plans. But to see how many questions, how long will I have, for example, We're just going to go to the nhanow.com website. That's where I am now. And under Get Certified, simply select the certification type that you're looking for. So I'm just going to pick billing and coding, for example. And here on this website, it's going to walk you through some of the key things around the material, or really the profession itself, some big things to be sure of and note, eligibility information. But if you keep scrolling, I'm just going to keep going all the way to the bottom. Here's where you can download this free test plan. And this is available to anyone. I'll make that a little bit bigger. So you can see for this particular certification, there are going to be 100 scored questions and 25 what's called pre-test. I want to make this really clear. These are not the first 25 on your test. These are 25 additional questions that we are not going to score. We're testing them out before they become official questions, pre-test. So there's going to be a total of 125 questions on the billing and coding exam, but only 100 are scored. You'll have a 3-hour timeline to complete it. And then if you scroll down, you can even see across each what we call domain or core area, how many questions there will be in each category. Keep going down further, and it's going to break down for you both the knowledge and tasks we're going to test you on during that exam. So all the way down to the details here. And this information is what we use for the study guide. This blueprint is what we use for the practice tests. Each quiz you may have access to is going to be just like taking just this one portion of the exam so that you can kind of test yourself as you're going through your study materials. So lots of great resources here out on the general NHA website. Did that answer that question, Hannah?
Yeah, thank you so much. And then the other
Perfect.
piece of conversation that we chatted about was around third party testing. There was a question if they could take the certification exam at home. Would you want to spend a couple minutes kind of talking about the various third party testing options?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
Thanks.
the first thing you want to be aware of is that how you're going to test is based off of the institution that you're testing through. So if you're testing through an academic program, they'll have defined or chosen already the test method. So if that program, or if you're testing individually, so not tied to a program, you may be testing through NHA's what we call third party testing center, which is PSI. That's the company that we use, the vendor that we use for our tests when tests can't be proctored or run through an institution. So to find out a little bit more about that, again, under Get Certified, you can see over here we've got some resources. You mentioned testing from home. This is what we call live remote proctoring. So if you select that option there, all of the resources around remote proctoring are directly available to you. Videos on what to expect, FAQs, open testing centers. If you don't want to do that, if maybe you don't have the right compatibility, how-to guides, all kinds of resources to help you with this. So essentially the question is, can I test from home? And the answer is maybe, right? So if I was testing as an individual right now, my home doesn't have a space that adheres to the requirements that I would find here in the FAQs to test remotely. There's certain things you need to be sure you're in a room alone with a door that shuts and no one will barge in on you, So if you got little kids, you're going to make sure that they're, wrangled for you during the duration of your exam. You also have to be in a space without any additional technology other than the device you're testing on. Well, my desk at home has lots of technology in it and would not be sufficient to test on. So for me, though I might be able to test at home, I don't really have a good space for it. I would do better finding an open testing center or testing in a different secure location. So double checking these things is a really important factor in this, making sure that you've addressed those pieces. So can you test remotely? Yes, maybe, right? So a lot of that sort of just depends on your institution and what you have available to you. So double check with your program, with your institution, and make sure that you've got all those questions and needs addressed. So I did see a quick question, where do I find the test plans again? So again, just go under Get Certified, locate the test you're testing for, and then quick scroll all the way down to the bottom. Bloop, there it is. Download your free test plan right there. So Monique, I hope that answered that question for you. Hannah, were there any others that are out there?
Thank you, Laura. Well, there are two people that have their hands raised. Just a reminder, you don't even have the ability to come off of mute in this Zoom webinar. So if you would put your question in the chat or the Q&A, we
Yeah.
could address it now, but just a reminder on that. And that was all, Laura.
Oh, okay. As we go through, were there any questions on like um, retakes or test scoring or anything like that?
No,
Okay.
someone asked about the practice exams,
Okay.
how to locate those. We
Great.
let them know through the My
Excellent.
Courses tab or okay, so someone did just say
I
retake.
just
What?
I just for that. I did. Okay. No
Thank
worries,
you.
no worries. Okay. So retakes, how does that work? Right? If you don't pass the exam in your first attempt. Well, let's take a look at what that really looks like. So, if you don't pass in your first attempt, what happens? You have to wait a 30-day window before you can test again in the same exam. So if you don't pass your MA exam, but you've got a phlebotomy test coming up, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying I don't pass my MA exam. When can I retake my MA exam? You can apply right away. That application does require a new fee, which some institutions will pay for, but not all. So then I try my second attempt. Now I'm going to go all the way down this rabbit hole, guys. So stick with me here. Okay, so I try a second attempt and I don't pass it. What do I do? Sort of a same sort of a three strike situation. Again, there's another 30-day wait period. There will be a new potential fee. Now, again, some programs pay for that, not all. Double check with your program. But you have to wait 30 days. Ideally, this is time that you're taking to study, to revisit stuff, and kind of hone in a little bit more on the areas that you missed. You will get a report on what you missed on the exam or the competencies you missed it in. So keep that in mind. But following further, all the way down, okay, so now I didn't pass my second attempt and I'm trying a third time. Well, at this point, we want to make sure that this is the right thing for you. So if you don't pass a third attempt, you have to wait a year before you can take it again. Hopefully, you've spent some time studying in between and you're still eligible to test by that point. Now, okay, from there, it's another attempt, another year for this is all for the same test type. So keep that in mind. But ideally, this is not what happens. We don't want you to keep paying for tests that you're not passing, right? If you don't pass in that first attempt, passing in your second attempt is completely possible. We have seen it time and time again. It just takes a little bit of dedication. What we do see is that not everyone who doesn't pass will retake it. We know that. But those who choose to, who also use the NHA study materials and follow best practices when studying, have a much higher possibility of passing in that second attempt and earning their nationally accredited certification. So we know that it is possible, but ideally you're using these before your first attempt to have that higher likelihood of passing without the need for a retake. So that's ideal. Is take the time beforehand to study and really follow some of the best practices available to you so that a second attempt isn't even necessary. So hopefully I asked for that one myself. It's okay. Hannah, was there anything else out there?
If you wouldn't mind taking a couple minutes and just speaking to the general exam eligibility requirements, there was a good question around, it sounds like this person may have completed a training program
Mhm.
and earned a specific certification, but then they mentioned they might be interested in additional certifications. And the question was around, do I still need to be enrolled in a training program to earn these other certifications?
Great
Yeah,
question.
this.
Okay, so
Thank
let's
you.
go back. This is pulled directly from the candidate handbook. So if you have additional questions, that is out on our website. It is a link right from your login. When after you log in, it's right in your home screen. But there's two pathways for eligibility. So for example, if I went to an academic program to become a medical assistant, okay, I complete that program. I earn my MA certification, and now I'm working in the field. And now I'm interested in getting a phlebotomy certification, right? Well, I didn't attend an academic program on phlebotomy. So at this point, I either need to complete training through an employer-based training program or complete a full year of work experience in that scope. So some medical assistants do phlebotomy as part of their job. So I would need to do that for a full year in that scope and have that have occurred in the last 3 years in order for that to be something I'd be eligible for. Now, let's flip that switch a little bit. I complete an MA program. I earn my MA certification, and now I'm interested in earning the NHA e-records certification. Well, depending on your academic program, you may have met the minimum requirements to test there, depending on how much you studied in it. So I would reach out to them. You could also submit an inquiry to NHA about that. But ideally, you have to have completed academic training or study in that material or have work experience in that scope in order to be eligible. So if you're going to diversify, which we know there's value there for you, you don't necessarily have to be enrolled in order to be eligible. We just need to make sure that you've met the minimum requirements. Hopefully that helps answer that question. I saw there's a question in the chat here. We talked about restrictions for time on having to wait at least 30 days to take a second attempt. There isn't a maximum time that you like there's no restriction on how much time you shouldn't wait other than eligibility, right? So if I test because I had completed an academic program, and the thing that's not listed here that you'll see is that academic completion needs to be in the last 5 years of that program. Well, if you exhaust that time, I test, I don't pass, I wait 5 years to test again, you lose your eligibility at that point. So that's probably too long. Somewhere less than that. It's also really, really hard to do well the further away from your training that you are. So we do recommend testing as close to that timeline as possible, depending on your readiness to test. We don't want you to be too stressed out, right? Great questions, though. I think these are really wonderful coming in from the Q&A and the chat. Is there any other questions that we've got coming in, Hannah?
Laura, that is all. Well, I
Fantastic.
guess I see there's two in the Q&A right now. It looks like, I don't know if you can click into those, but I think we can answer those directly.
Oof.
Speakers.
Yeah, so if your program closed and you were enrolled in it, if you didn't finish the program, if you don't have that documentation, and Connie's answering that, she might be able to give us a little bit more. I know NHA has worked in the past with programs that were under like urgent closure, but ultimately you have to meet eligibility. So program completion or work experience. And I love this question we got about working with disabilities. So I'm going to just bring that to the foreground here. NHA is a big proponent of inclusivity. So if you are an individual who in the past at any point has had an IEP or academic plan, a 504, even official documentation from a physician in an ADA compliant need. Here out on our website, you can go up to the Help Center and we have this forms area. If you have an application on file, if you're preparing to test, you can submit a request for an accommodation. This may take a couple weeks to go through, so we recommend doing this at least a month before your scheduled test date. So if you do have that, please fill that out, and based off of your need, and the documentation you submit, NHA will evaluate that to provide what we can as far as accommodations for you based off of an ADA compliant need. So that is something we definitely want to make sure you know you can do. We recommend you do. Even if your IEP or 504 was when you were in high school and now it's 10 years later, there's an FAQ in here that talks about that. We do accept old documentation, but you want to kind of look this over a little bit first if that's a need that you have. So please take a look at that. I think we've covered almost everything. Each test is different, so keep that in mind when you're looking at those test plans. Each exam is a different amount of questions, a different amount of time. It's all based off of the scope of that exam. So if you're not sure, go take a look at the test blueprint so you can look at that for yourself. So it just depends on the exam itself. All right. So I feel like we've got a lot of great questions in here. I hope that this was helpful for everyone. I want to once again just say thank you, everybody, for being here with, oops, that went too fast, being here with us tonight. This will be recorded. You will be receiving this from NHA. Lauren, if you could post one more time that survey link. If you didn't open this up already, please fill out the survey so that you can get put into that raffle for a $50 gift card. I don't know about you, but the holidays are coming up for me. I'd love an additional 50 bucks in my back pocket to help out with that. So please fill that out and let us know what you thought. We're absolutely interested in hearing from you. Thank you all so much for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.